say one thing first. It's not all or nothing. One of the interesting findings in our study that surprised me was, I thought the younger people who had less severe disease would do better, but I was wrong. It wasn't how old or how sick they were. It was primarily a function of how much they changed their diet and lifestyle. And what we found was that the more you change your diet and lifestyle, the more you improve, both in objective measures that we can actually study and in how you feel. And then you begin to make the connections yourself. It's like, oh, when I do this, I feel good. When I do that, I don't feel so good. So maybe I'll do more of this and less of that. And what matters most is your overall way of eating and living. Now, if you're trying to reverse a life-threatening condition like heart disease, that is more the pound of cure. It really does take a lot of effort. That's why we were the first to prove in a scientific study you could reverse heart disease, because people didn't go far enough. But for most people, the more you change, the more you improve. It's not all or nothing. And also, the whole language of behavioral change has this kind of moralistic quality. I cheated on my diet. These are good foods and these are bad foods. And once you call foods good or bad, it's a very small step to saying I'm a bad person because I ate bad food, and then might as well bring out the bacon and eggs at that point. So what I did, I wrote a book called The Spectrum, which is based on this finding. And instead of calling foods good or bad, to say, look, food is just food. Some foods are healthier than others. So I rated them from group 1, the healthiest, mostly plant-based foods, to group 5, the least healthy, like red meat and fried foods and things like that, and groups 2 through 4 are in the middle, and said, start where you are. So let's say a person comes to me and they want to get their cholesterol down, 50 points, or they lose 10 pounds, or get their blood sugar down, or whatever it happens to be. And I'll say, great, where are you on this food spectrum now? Not here's your diet. Because if you go on a diet, sooner or later you're going to go off a diet. And then you have all those toxic emotions of shame and guilt and anger and humiliation, which really are bad for you. So instead of saying, here's your diet, say, where are you on the food spectrum? Well, they might say, I'm eating mostly unhealthy group 4 and 5 foods. Great. I've also learned that even more than being healthy, people want to feel free and in control. And as soon as I tell somebody, eat this and don't eat that, they want to do the opposite. So instead of me saying, here's your diet, to say, how much are you willing to change? Oh, okay, well, I'll eat less of the unhealthy groups 4 through 5, and I'll eat more groups 1 through 3. Great. How much exercise are you doing? Well, not really much. Well, how much are you willing to do? Well, I'll walk 20 minutes a day. Okay. How much yoga and meditation are you doing? Well, 0. How much are you willing to do? Well, I'll do 20 minutes of meditation a day. Great. How much love and support are you getting? Well, not enough, but I'll make that more of a priority to spend time with my friends and family. Great. And then we'll support that degree of change. We'll track it. If they indulge themselves one day, it doesn't mean they cheated or they failed or they're bad. Just eat healthier the next. They don't have time to exercise one day, do a little more the next. You get the idea. So let's say after a month or so, they come back and they say, well, how you done? Well, I lost 6 pounds instead of 10. Great. Now just go a little farther and then you'll go the rest of the way. There's nothing to push back against. There's nothing to fight against. And so I just find that a much more sustainable approach. Well, I began doing this work 38 years ago in 1977. And of the first 10 patients that we studied, I put in a hotel for a month and put them on this whole program, including the plant-based diet. 8 of the 10 showed significant improvements in their artery blockages. They don't go to 0, they don't go to completely clean, but they're improving. Instead of getting worse and worse, they're starting to get less and less clogged. And we found an average improvement of 300% in their blood flow, as well as the blockages becoming less clogged. And 91% reduction in the frequency of angina or chest pain. It's thrilling to be able to empower people with information they can use to use the experience of suffering as a doorway or as a catalyst for transforming their lives for the better. Change is hard, but if you're hurting enough, suddenly the idea of change becomes more interesting. It's kind of like, wow, that would be kind of hard to change my diet to that degree. And that kind of meditation, that sounds kind of weird or whatever, but boy, I'm hurting so badly, let me try this weird stuff. And when they do that, and because these underlying biological mechanisms are so dynamic, most people find they feel so much better so quickly. It really reframes the reason for making these changes from fear of dying to joy of living. You feel so much better. You say, well, yeah, I like eating burgers, but not that much. Because I feel so much better, these are choices worth making. There's no point in giving up something that you enjoy unless you get something back that's even better and quickly. And most people, particularly those that have heart disease, find that they improve so dramatically, so quickly, that makes it sustainable. And also there's another aspect to this which most people don't really talk about, and that is if you say, gosh, I can't eat everything, I feel deprived, that's not sustainable. If you say, I'm choosing not to eat certain foods because I want to live long enough to dance at my grandkid's wedding or walk them down the aisle or see my kids grow up or whatever that has, if it's meaningful, then it's sustainable. And all religious and spiritual traditions have dietary guidelines, most of them anyway. And they all differ from each other. In one religion you can eat this but not that, or before midnight but not after, or whatever it happens to be. It's like, what's going on here? Is God confused? And I think that just whatever intrinsic benefit there is in eating or not eating certain foods, just the act of choosing not to do something that you could otherwise do imbues it with great meaning. And if it's meaningful, then it's sustainable. And so how we present these to people is really is important, and it's not just what we eat, it's also how we eat and the meaning for what we eat that makes a difference. The thing that I'd like to really emphasize and to make sure your viewers understand is that we have a lot more control over our health and our well-being than we had once thought. Not to blame, but to empower. If we're just a victim of bad genes or bad luck or bad whatever, what can you do? But to the degree we realize that these simple choices that we make in our lives each day, to eat well, love more, stress less, and move more, that these simple choices can make such a profound difference in all aspects of our lives, then that understanding can empower us to make choices that can really make a difference, both in our own lives, the lives of the people that we care about, and in a larger context in our planet as well.